Hi there, this is Ian, and this is going to be how not to teach English, what not to do in the classroom. Okay, number one, not preparing. If you don't prepare and you show up to class to teach, you're going to have some problems. So it's best to come up with some sort of plan before class. In the beginning, it's a good idea to make it more detailed, make your plan more detailed. Longer, like how long you're going to do something for, what you're going to do, any materials you need for class. Write it all out. Make it readable, use indentation so you can look at it in a glance and understand it. And then, after some time, you might be able to just write an outline. Okay, number two, not moving around. So if you don't move around in the classroom when you teach or while you teach, it can create some boredom. Like your students can get bored, and it's the same with your students too. If they're always sitting in their desks, it's likely that they're going to get bored. So it's a good idea to move around the classroom when you teach. You're doing different activities, move around amongst your students. Help keep their attention on you. Hey, number three, talking too much. You don't really want to talk that much. There's certain times in the lesson when you should or you can talk more than other times, but generally speaking, you don't want to talk that much. Say 80-20, they should be speaking 80% of the time and you about 20%. Just a rough number there. Okay, number four, speaking too fast. If you speak too fast, your students probably won't understand you. They're non-native English speakers, so their level of English, you could have different students with different ranges or abilities of English, but if you're teaching English, most likely your English is going to be much better than theirs. So, you can't speak to your students in the same way that you would speak to a friend here or wherever you are, your native country, native English. So speak slowly, so that they can understand. You got to come down to their ability. Number five, being unhappy. If you're unhappy, it's likely that it's going to make your students unhappy. If you don't like teaching, it's likely that your students won't like learning from you. So you can make things more fun by using games, activities, music, role play, interesting topics, stuff like that. 6, being impatient. So again, your students aren't at the same ability as you are. So you have to be patient. You're going to get a lot of questions. Your students are going to have difficulties learning the language, so you have to be patient. It's a good idea to study a language yourself. So if you're abroad, wherever you are, it's a good idea to study the native language yourself. That way you get an idea of what it's like to learn a new language. So be patient. 7, doing the same thing over and over. If you need variety in your lessons. So if you play the same game over and over again or activity over and over again, your students are going to get bored. And really, variety is like the answer to a lot of in-class problems. Variety of students can move around. Like I said before, moving around, that helps. Then you need variety of games, activities in the classroom. That's what you need. Number 8, no repetition. So part of learning a new language or learning anything requires repetition, requires drilling. You have to do a lot of the same things over and over again. To learn how to say a word, you have to say it over and over again. So repetition is a big part of learning language, and it's a big part of learning anything. You have to do it over and over again. So using games and activities is a way to make it less monotonous, though. Like too much, you can't make it, at the same time you can't make it too monotonous. So you can have repetition, but you got to have some variety, different ways of using that repetition, or how to do that repetition. Number 9, following the book too much. You don't want to. The book's there is like give you some content, give you some ideas, some structure for your lesson. Yet, if you're a new teacher, you may be tempted just to be in a read and repeat mode. Like, this is the class, we're doing this, so I'll say these words, get them to say it, and just go right through it. You gotta, the book's there is to work with. So if you have vocabulary words, teach them the words, have them practice the words, stuff like that. You can't follow it too much, but yeah. So it's not like a read and repeat. Don't use the book that way. Okay. Basically, you're like the orchestra, or you have to orchestrate it. You know, that's what your job is in the classroom. You have to orchestrate it. You know. Okay. Number 10, being boring. Don't be afraid of showing your personality. Whatever your personality is in the class, be yourself. You know, your students is more likely be your likable self. Or anyways, students are more likely to like you if you're just be yourself and you're comfortable. So again, you know, also games, activities, music, role play, interesting topics. Don't be boring. Okay. Number 11, too much correction. You don't want to correct your students too much. Just correct them. Whatever it is that you're teaching them on that day, correct their mistakes with that. Don't fuss with the other mistakes. They're going to make a lot of mistakes. And if you correct them too much, it's going to make them more inhibited to speak or anything like that. They're already like that. Many of them are like that. Kids not so much, but the older ones can be. 12, lack of order. You need order and structure in your lesson. You know, that's why like lesson planning, the key word. So you need some order to your lesson. Do things at a certain time, length of time. Certain activities should be for a length of time, nothing too long, you know, depending on the class or lesson. You can arrange your desks and chairs a certain way. Stuff like that. 13, using rewards. I think rewards are generally overrated and they shouldn't be used. You should bait your students with them. Like, if you do this, I'll give you this. If you do that, I'll give you that. Don't do that. Just focus on making your lesson the reward. I mean, that might sound kind of cheesy, but it's not really. It's like focus on making your lessons, you know, interesting, fun, engaging, stuff like that. And rewards, because if you give rewards, if you say I'll give you this if you do that, you're just baiting them. It's like the rat race. It's like they're not going to be interested in doing what you're doing. They're just going to become interested in getting that thing. 14, being too rigid. Okay, so before we said the first one was lesson planning. So you want to obviously plan for your lesson. However, sometimes the lesson won't go as planned. And so that's when you don't want to be too rigid. You kind of have some backups in mind or be able to like improvise on the spot sometimes, because maybe you found out you were told to teach this, but then you found out your students already learned that. So you got to come up with something new, or maybe something's not going well, and you know it's like kind of tempting to think, well, I made this plan, I got to follow this plan, you know. But sometimes it's not a wise thing to do. Sometimes you got to be able to just kill it and create something new right then and there. So it's a good idea to have, you know, backups in your mind for activities or other things to do. Okay? So anyways, that's 14 things not to do in the classroom, and there's probably many more things I could add, but that's what I have right now, and it's from the blog post that I created at ESLinsider.com/blog. You can check that out. It's called What Not to Do in the Classroom. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.